Consistency. It's a term that I'm sure you've heard a million times by now, and it's something that, if you develop a great amount of consistency within yourself, you know that your life would be a million times better, right? It's a trait that all the high performers, the high achievers of the world have, is they are extremely consistent, and it's what the average people of the world don't have, is because they can continuously quit on things, they continuously break their momentum, they continuously fail what they say they're gonna do because they're inconsistent. So how do you develop rock solid, bulletproof consistency? Well, I'm gonna give you 3 of the main ideas that I like to live by, and that I have been living by for already the last few years now, to stay consistent on my goals and make sure that I achieve what I say I'm going to achieve. Because really, without consistency, you won't achieve anything in life. That doesn't matter what you're trying to achieve. Without consistency, you ain't going to achieve shit, right? So the first thing is, you can't stay consistent because you can't stay consistently disciplined enough, right? Because really what it is to be consistent, you need to have the discipline, right? You need to be taking action on stuff when you don't feel like doing it. And it's especially on those days when you don't feel like taking action, that's when you need to take action, because that's going to be like anywhere from 60 to 80% of the days when you don't feel like taking action. And that's really discipline. And that is going to obviously contribute massively to how consistent you can stay. By getting into that rhythm, you're going to develop a habit. You're going to develop a routine of knowing whenever you feel like crap, whenever you feel like not taking action, whenever you feel sad or whatever it may be, you know that you need to take action on that, because you're going to be developing your discipline muscle and also contributing therefore to your consistency muscle, right? You're going to be able to stay consistent much longer than the average person, because I can tell you the average person isn't taking action on the days where they don't feel like it, right? For example, today is one of those days where maybe I am not operating at my full level of motivation, right? Again, I don't believe in motivation. Motivation is important and definitely needs to be capitalized on when you are motivated. But most days you ain't going to feel motivated, right, to take action. And this is one of those days out of, many days where I personally aren't too motivated to work, right? I'm not too motivated to, for example, record this video or do other stuff in my business, but I'm still doing it because I know that when it comes to being consistent, you've got to work that discipline muscle. You've got to take action, especially when you don't feel like it. On those days, which I like to refer to as test days, it's the universe testing you to see whether or not you're worthy of success, right? If you are worthy of success, you will take action on those days where you don't feel like it. If you're not worthy of success, you're just going to accept your feelings, you're going to listen to your feelings, and you're going to watch Netflix and not put in the work. You're going to be lazy. Never going to achieve success by doing that, okay? So that's the first thing, is you're not consistently disciplined enough. And it's because, just to expand on that first point, it's because your why isn't strong enough, right? Discipline and consistency is a byproduct of basically having extremely strong motivations, inner motivations to achieve something, right? I can tell you right now, if you needed to make $10,000 by the end of this month, or $100,000 by the end of this month to save the life of a loved one, let's say to save the life of one of your parents, you would find a way to do that, right? Because, and even if you don't, you'll come very close to it. Say it's $100,000, but you'll come close because you'll stay consistent every single day. You will make your days a lot longer, you'll sleep less, you'll be super disciplined on doing exactly what you need to do to achieve that outcome, to save someone who is super dear to you, because it means so much to you, right? And so you need to get really clear on what your why is, basically, to stay consistent, to stay, consistently disciplined, essentially. Because if you do that, the rest comes easy, right? Because you understand that, look, if you don't do it, you're gonna fail, you're going to feel like shit, you're basically doing a disservice to your strong motivations. If one of your goals is, for example, to retire your parents, if you don't stay consistent, if you break your routine, if you slack off and you watch a crappy YouTube video instead of taking action inside of your business, you're basically choosing you're choosing to not retire your parents, right? You're choosing to basically be very selfish rather than unselfish. And so what you need to do in that case is remind yourself of your why, right? Why you're actually doing all of this, right? Whatever it is you're doing, whether that's building your own online business, whether that's in your own career, if you have a job or whatever, you've got to consistently remind yourself of why you're actually doing these things and why it's so important to you. Because if it's a really high level of importance, right? And if it means so much to you to the point where when you think about it, it really makes you feel like strong emotions inside of you, right? Whether that's angry emotions, like sad emotions, whatever it is, it needs to make you feel something very strong inside of your stomach, right? Inside of you. And you've got a strong why if you can feel that, okay? And it can be a combination of multiple things. In fact, those are typically the strongest whys, right? Is when you have a combination of 3-5 different things that will all come as a result of achieving X, Y, Z goals. When you can combine all of those together, it makes a really powerful why, motivation, whatever you want to call it, for you to actually put in the work, stay consistent, right? So that's the first thing. But the second thing is actually understanding that consistency requires you to actually focus on one thing at a time. You can't be all over the place, right? You can't be spreading yourself too thin. For example, if you're trying to be consistent in business, you've got to focus on one specific business at a time, right? As soon as you start spreading yourself too thin and as soon as you start to do too many things at once, that's when you'll actually shoot yourself in the foot and you'll fail or you'll quit eventually on one of those things or two of those things, and you'll break your consistency, right? Because naturally your brain only has a limited amount of bandwidth and energy that it can put out to certain things in your life, right? Whether that's business, relationships, health, whatever. And if you're focusing on too many, in this example, too many businesses at once, and if you have like shiny object syndrome, right? Well, you're going to fail, right? You're not going to, it's quite literally impossible to succeed at those things, especially, and I'm talking when you're starting them from scratch, right? Where you have no leverage and all that. And it's like generally you needing to put in loads of hours in every single one of those businesses, because you're going to end up basically putting in 33%, say it's like 3 businesses. You're going to end up putting 33%, give or take, of your energy to each one of those. As opposed to if you were to focus on one business at a time, you would put 100% of your focus in that, and you would therefore get better results in that business, as opposed to getting average or less than average results in the other example, right? Having 3 businesses at the same time, which then will, when you don't get great results for the efforts that you put in, that is a surefire way to basically ruin your consistency, because you'll really feel the need and the want to quit. Okay. Now, I'm not saying like it's super easy just focusing on one specific business. Building a great business is hard, right? But if you put in 100% of your efforts on one business, one vehicle at a time, you're going to get better results from them naturally. And it will take time, obviously, to see those results pay off, the fruits of your labor pay off. But when you get the results, when you get a first win, when you get the first few wins, it's going to just fuel that snowball effect of motivation, and you're going to become more and more motivated. You're going to get even more and more momentum, that it's going to make it even harder for you to quit, even harder for you to get off your streak of consistency, because you understand that the results are coming in, if that makes sense. And it's the same with anything else, right? It's the same with relationships, health is a big one, health and fitness. Like if you go in the gym, and if you're going to the gym consistently and you actually start seeing results, and you focus specifically on one routine, right? Not like multiple routines at a time, just one routine, one weekly routine that you can stick to, and you do that over and over again for at least a year or at least 6 months, you're going to see results. And once you see those results come in, again, it builds that momentum. And that's really my third point, is understanding the power of momentum. See, a lot of people that I've talked to in the past, and a lot of people that I talk to right now, people who are either high performers and are very consistent, or people who are maybe not that consistent, I can see basically very distinguished traits from either one of those people. And the high performers understand the power of momentum. The people who aren't very consistent, who basically don't really achieve everything that they want to achieve in life, they don't really understand the power of momentum. And momentum is such a powerful thing, right? Because I can tell you right now, when you've got the momentum by your side, when you've got momentum, like that winning momentum, you know, you're on a winning streak, you're ticking off goals, you're making sure that you stick to your daily routines and your to-do list that you set out for yourself every single day. When you're in that positive momentum wave, you've got to do everything you can in your power to protect it, right? Because as long as you do that, as long as you make sure that you don't break that momentum, it just makes everything 10 times easier, right? Because that momentum does something inside of you where it makes you almost go into like automatic robot mode, whatever you want to call it, where you just do what is required without really thinking about it. And that's the power of momentum right there, you know, over a certain amount of time. If say you're someone who wakes up at 5 a.m. or you wanted to start to wake up at 5 a.m. By staying consistent with that for 1 month, 2 months, you build that momentum where really it becomes super easy to wake up at 5 a.m. because it's ingrained in your brain and you've got that momentum, and it's become a real good habit. And that's what we are already. We're creatures of habit, ultimately. Every single one of you watching this video, you're a creature of habit, okay? But the thing is once you break that momentum, that's when you're basically breaking a very powerful thing and you're almost reversing it, and you're now starting negative momentum. And negative momentum, as you may have guessed, is something that you want to stay far away from. And so that's one thing, is understanding, like, if you want to start being more consistent in life, is understanding that you want to be consistent and you want to continue your consistency streak, because the last thing you want to do when it comes to becoming successful and achieving your goals is starting a negative momentum streak. So if you can almost get scared of falling into a rut, falling into negative momentum, understanding that, look, if you break your diet and you start eating this chocolate over there or these nice cookies that you can see, you're gonna potentially start a whole streak of negative momentum, which could last days, it could last weeks, it could last months, it could last years, right? Literally, it sounds silly, but it's often the smallest acts that you do which go against obviously your purpose and your mission as a man, that can then completely take you off your mission in a week's time or a month's time. And I've been there many times, especially at the start of my journey, where I didn't really understand the concept of momentum. And so I urge you, if there's one thing like to do, really one of the most important things to do when it comes to being more consistent, it's this one. It's the third point that I just mentioned there. It's understanding the power of momentum and doing everything in your power when you've got positive momentum to protect it, and everything in your power when you've got negative momentum to break it and get back onto that positive momentum streak. Okay, these are 3 things that you need to cement in your brain right now. Leave a comment under this video if you enjoyed it, if you got some value out of these points, or if you've got any questions as well, I'll be happy to answer them. And I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.